Hi, Ed Friedland, the Bass Whisperer here once again for Guitar World magazine. This month we're looking at this ginormous Trace Elliot stack. The rig consists of the Trace AH1200 head sitting on top of the 1048H, which is a 410 cabinet, and that is sitting on top of the 1818, which is a straight 18-inch speaker, no tweeter. The AH1200 has got a ton of features. Most of them are accessible via the 6-function foot switch. When you turn the amp on, it defaults to the Trace pre-shape setting, and that they define as the classic Trace tone, and this is what this sounds like. Now if I turn it off, you can hear there's quite a difference. So that's your basic starting point. They consider that the Trace Elliot tone. We have the Trace Elliot drive circuit, which is adjustable for both drive and blend. First without. Now with. You can hear the introduction of that harmonic distortion. Now let's really crank the heck out of this drive and the blend. That's pretty gnarly. And of course you can tailor the distortion with the next feature, which is the graphic EQ. The 12 band goes all the way from 30 Hertz up to 15K. Now 30 Hertz is not a frequency that you're going to want to boost. You got this giant stack and 1200 watts. You've got all the bottom and all the power you need. You do not want to be boosting 30 Hertz. What it's good for is cut the 30 Hertz. Those are the sub-low frequencies that make your speakers freak out. And if you're trying to play loud and get yourself heard, cutting those lows is going to make a big difference. 15 Hertz is very high, but luckily the Trace Elliot graphic EQ section is pretty quiet, so you're not going to hear a lot of noise introduced by boosting that. You're going to really add a lot of sparkle and a lot of life for your slap tone up there. So the graphic EQ is set pretty much flat at this point, except I've got it rolled off at 30 and 40 Hertz. Here's the tone. Dial in a bit of a slap tone here. I've got a boost at 15 and 10 and a little bit at 5. I'm cutting at 2.6 and 1.3, just a tiny bit. Boosting at 60 Hertz and 100 Hertz. Let's do a punch curve. Got the lows boosted and the highs rolled off, and you get a nice fat fingerstyle tone. So with a sound like this on your graphic, you can go from the pre-shaped tone, which has got a lot of brightness and a lot of edge, kick in the graphic, the 1048H is a great example of a 410 cab. Its claimed power handling capability is 800 watts RMS. It's an 8-ohm box with a claimed frequency response of 35 Hertz to 15K. The Celestion design speakers have Kevlar impregnated cones and are designed for wide excursion and high sound pressure levels. The horn has its own separate level control, allowing you to taper exactly how much high frequency response you want from the cabinet. Although the 1048H is not exactly a small cabinet, the use of strong and light poplar plywood keeps the entire box weight down to a fairly manageable 77 pounds. Now let's check out the dual band compressor, which gives you separate control over the lows and the high bands. First I'll play some fingerstyle without the compressor. Now with the compressor. You can hear that the compression really tightens up the low end response, makes it a little more punchy. Now let's hear the high band compression. I'll dial in just a tiny bit. First we'll hear it without, a little slap tone. Now with a little bit of high band compression. You can hear that it adds a nice kind of a crunch to the top end, rounds it off a little bit, but still lets the frequencies come through. The effects loop section on the 1212 is very extensive. The full send will output the full frequency range of the signal, where the low pass send will only output the low frequencies and the high pass send only outputs the high frequencies. With the effects returns, the mono socket will route the signal through both channels of the rest of the preamp. The left channel will route it through the left channel, and the right mono socket will route the signal to the right channel if the left socket is also in use, or it will route the signal through both channels, i.e. in mono, if the left socket is not used. With the effects loop in series mode, the entire signal is passed through the effects loop out of the sends and back into the returns. In parallel mode, the signal gets split. One part goes through the effects loop and the other remains dry and unprocessed and gets mixed back in with the affected signal. The loop level knob controls the overall level of the signal while the effects loop is activated. The owner's manual has many useful and very specific suggestions for getting the most out of the effects loop section. Simply put, the 1818 cab is massive. It has a stated frequency response of 30 Hz to 3K and 500 watt RMS power handling at 8 ohms. Throwing the 1818 under another cab adds a huge side of beef to your tone, or if you're just looking for the sound of tectonic plates crashing into each other, use it all by itself. Hope you've enjoyed this look at the Trace Elliot stack, the AH1200 head, the 1048H410 cabinet, and 1818 single 18 cab. This stack is mammoth. It's huge, it's big, it's loud, it's heavy. While a lot of bass amp manufacturers are going for small, light, and loud, Trace Elliot is sticking to their roots, loud, proud, and green. Check it out.